You are about to press send on that important email to your boss that you know could change the trajectory of your future in some way, shape or form. You're about to press publish on that post on social media that is going to be the beginning of that thing that God has been stirring in your heart to share. And for whatever reason, before you do that, you go back to a group of friends, family, whoever these trusted people might be, and you're essentially looking for validation from them, despite the fact that they're not really involved in what it is that you're doing. And for one reason or another, you start to kind of take yourself back a couple of steps and decide you're not going to do it at all. If that sounds like you and you are seeking permission for people before you step out and do what it is that God is calling you to do, then this Nurture Note is absolutely for you. Hi everyone, welcome to Nurture Notes. If you are new here, then hi and welcome. My name is Naomi Aidoo. I am an author, a coach, a devotional writer and speaker, and a YouVersion content partner. And every single Monday, I share what is called a Nurture Note, a devotional that is designed to equip you with real truth, the Bible, for your very real life. We're keeping it practical as well as biblical. So it's not just a Bible study, although those are great. It's an opportunity for you to put into action exactly what it is that you are doing. Because check out what it is that Agnes said that she was able to do after watching last week's Nurture Note. Pretty good, right? This is what happens when we decide that we're going to take action on some of what it is that is being shared in these devotionals. And we know that actually clarity comes with action and not thought, and sometimes it's harder and it's easier said than done. But anyway, if you are here for practical action with biblical reflection all woven into one, then you're in the right place. Hit subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, because I would love to have you as a member of this community. If you like to have this sort of stuff also in written format, then there's 10,000 of us hanging out over on my email, and you can subscribe to my email list by heading to the link in the description. Without further ado, let's get into it. We are in a series around getting unstuck. Now, this came off the back of the fact that last year we went through the entirety of Luke's Gospel, and I asked my community over on email what would be the next best thing, and what was described most in the vote, or what was voted for most, was a series around getting unstuck. And so that's exactly what we're doing. We are now, this is our fourth of our 5-part series, so next week will be the last within this current series. And this particular episode is looking at seeking validation or permission before we move, and that being a reason that we stay stuck. The first week we looked at the fact that we are looking at ourselves more than we're looking at God, and that's what keeps us stuck. I'm actually starting to put these Nurture Notes out on Substack, so they will be later, so you'll get them in real time if you're on my email list, but you can read them after the fact via my blog on Substack, which you can also find in the description if you would like to read what we've done before and watch what we've done before. So looking at God as opposed to looking at ourselves. The second was fear. Fear encapsulates a lot of all of these things, but fear we kind of dove into it in a little bit more depth. The third was because of change. This idea of change is somehow scarier or more challenging to us than the idea of staying the same. And so because we don't really like the notion of change, because as humans we don't step forward. And then today we're looking at validation, permission granting. And we're actually going to be looking at David as we explore this, because he was most certainly someone that did not ask for permission and was not, by all intents and purposes, the person for the job. And yet he was the person that actually got the job done. Because we know, right, in 1 Peter, it talks about the fact that we are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. We are chosen for big things. And yet so often we go to our Aunt Ethel and our neighbour 2 doors down and the mum on the school gate seeking permission for stepping out into the thing that God has already said, you've got all the permission you need, permission granted, go ahead and do the work. And so this is an opportunity for us to think about what it looks like not to ask permission, because the truth of the matter is, not asking permission is still going to have those elements of fear and those elements of uncertainty, because it can be scary. However, if we are to move in the direction of our declaration, move into what it is that God is calling us to do, then we have to recognize that the validation and permission that we've received from God is more than enough. So in 1 Samuel 16, and this whole nurture note kind of covers 1 Samuel 16 and 1 Samuel 17. So if you'd like to, across the week, read both chapters in your own time, then feel free. But we start in 1 Samuel 16. So when we look at 1 Samuel 16 from verse 6 to 13, we see Jesse, who is David's father, essentially calling all of his sons, apart from David, to come and do this job that God has asked to be done. And things are said like, the Lord said to Samuel, this is with regards to Eliab, because Samuel was like, well, this Eliab, he looks like the guy for the job. Surely the Lord's anointed stands here before the Lord, it says in verse 6. Verse 7, the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things the people look at. People look at outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. So, you might be thinking to yourself, I'm not the person for the job. I don't have all of this stuff together, and whatever it might be that you're telling yourself. And David was not even in the room. When this consideration was happening, David was not even asked of or considered by Jesse, to the point where in verse 11 it says, so he asked Jesse, are these all the sons you have? Because essentially God hadn't chosen any of these. And Jesse says, there's still the youngest. Jesse answered, he's tending the sheep. Samuel said, send for him, we will not sit down until he arrives. So at this point it's kind of like, okay, we're going to go and now get the youngest, with the one who was out tending the sheep. Does this even make any sense? And yet it's exactly what God had asked for. So then we jump to verses 23 to 26, and we kind of get an indication as to why David starts to decide that he's the person that's going to go out and do what it is that he's going to do. Because if we go from 22, David left his things with the keeper of supplies, ran to the battle lines, and asked his brothers how they were. As he was talking with them, Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, stepped out from his lines and shouted his usual defiance, and David heard it. Whenever the Israelites saw the man, they all fled from him in great fear. Now the Israelites have been saying, do you see how this man keeps coming out? He comes out to defy Israel, etc., etc., etc. And then verse 26. David asked the men standing near him, what would be done for the man who kills this Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that should defy the armies of the living God? He's like, wait, we have God on our side. Who is this guy? Who is this joker that thinks that he can just carry on and behave in this way and get away with it, essentially? But regardless of all of that and what's stirring within him, we still get stuff from the oldest brothers. If we look at 28 to 33, they question David's motives. They're sort of talking about the fact that the idea that he wants to go ahead isn't the right thing, and he's doing it for all of the wrong reasons. So it's safe to say that if we're looking at this through the lens of David being someone who was like the right person for the job, the person who looked the part, who spoke the part, who did all of those things, David was not it, right? It's very clear. Like, there was no permission, there was no validation. His own family were like, no way, absolutely not you. But David's saying, no, this is happening, to the point where he goes to Saul, who at the moment he's like the servant of, and he says in verse 32, let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him. Saul replied, you're not able to, spoke about all of his limitations again. And then David actually says, well, your servant's been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. It's saying, I've got experience in, what I've got experience in, and these are transferable skills. I think that's a case in point as well. Like, sometimes we've got transferable skills, though it might not look like we can do what it is that we're doing, but actually God equips us. And so he's saying, I'm going to go and do it. He's not asking for permission. He's saying, your servant will go. Verse 32, your servant will go and fight him. It's not like, can I? Is that okay? I'll go. And so it becomes apparent that he's eventually going to be allowed to go and get this done. But then comes the question of the armour. He's suited and kitted up in all of this armour, which is going to be the right thing for the job, right? And he ends up saying, I can't go in these. It's in verse 39. I cannot go in these, he said to Saul, because I'm not used to them. So he took them off. Then he took his staff in his hand, chose 5 smooth stones from the stream and put them in the pouch of his shepherd's bag. With his sling in his hand, he approached the Philistine. So there was no validation from family. There was not really validation from Saul. It was kind of begrudgingly like, okay, if you must. He was overlooked. He was dismissed. It was kind of like he was a bit of a laughing stock. But his confidence was in God. His confidence was in the fact that he knew that he could do this because of who and whose he was. If you are in a place where you are still seeking permission from people that have no business actually giving you permission because God's already granted it to you, remind yourself of who and whose you are. That is so, so, so crucial. Because David's confidence is God-centered and not self-centered. In verse 45 it says, David said to the Philistine, you come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. So the battle happens, and then verse 49, reaching into his bag and taking out a stone, he slung it and struck the Philistine on the forehead. The stone sank into his forehead and he fell face down on the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone, without a sword in his hand. He struck down the Philistine and killed him. That was what he was called to do for such a time as then. What are you called to do for such a time as now, where you are seeking validation and permission from other people when God's already said go? The reason that we stay stuck, number 4, as we've gone through this series, is because we are looking for validation from the wrong people when God's already given us all of the validation that we need. So with that in mind, because we're always thinking about actionable steps, what is some kind of actionable step that you are going to take in the direction of what it is that you are being called to and is being stirred in you, without questioning the fact that X, Y, and Z haven't said that it's a good idea or that you should go for it? Because what has God said? And if God said go, then you're good. I hope that has served you today. Really look forward to hearing those steps that you're going to be taking, and I look forward to seeing you next week for our 5th and final part of the series. Don't forget to go into the description to either grab this in real time in your inbox every Monday, to subscribe to Substack so that you can look through and browse through some of the previous nurture notes, and everything else in the description that you might need with regards to working with me or checking out my plans on the Bible app, whatever it might be that you want to do next. I really, really look forward to seeing you next week. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe and comment, and keep going, keep growing.